Would it be a 9? Would it be a 9?
Are we there?
Yeah, it's 7, yeah. Good morning, and welcome to the Board of Directors, HART. Would everyone please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me welcome everyone. We have the minutes from our regular board meeting of July 15, 2019. We had them in advance of this meeting. We have a motion to approve those minutes.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve the regular board minutes of July 15, 2019. See no further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Motion is adopted. Public input. Do we have anyone on any agenda items? All of these. Okay, we have some people, some people want to speak on the agenda items. We have 3 minutes to address those. The first person is Linda Cummings. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Linda Cummings. I came in front of this board on May 6th to speak to you about the buses. I want to start off by talking about the bus that they took away from the Social Security office in Tampa housing. When I came in front of the board, I didn't realize it then because I spoke publicly about the bus drivers, customer service, and the van. My car.
Is the microphone on?
It is not. I'm just going to fix it right now.
Is your mic on?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
For some reason, no.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's on.
Is
Well, I have a loud voice. So
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, when I came in front of this board on May 6th, I came in front of this board with honors to speak about the customer service, the van drivers, and the bus drivers. I had said that I was one of the ones that came in front of this board years ago when I was working to get the buses running early and late. When I came in front of this board, I was talking about bus 33, but I want to speak about the bus that you took away from the Social Security office and the bus that you took away from Tampa Housing. Recently, I got on that bus 30, to go to Tampa Housing and Social Security office. It took 5 minutes. I live on a route where I moved for 4 months, which is 20X. The 20X is an express bus. I can't use this card. The people on 20X is stuck in time because they don't want the regular community to catch that bus. The majority of your bus drivers are people of color. Now, people of color don't have to be black like me. But what I'm saying to you is, nobody wants to be cursed out, spit on, and dragged off of the bus. It's public transportation. I can understand that. Going back to bus 33, when you took 33 away from Fletcher, which the number 1, and I spoke about it, pull the tape, number 1 runs every 15 minutes. You've got 100 buses. So I'm gonna try to narrow it down. HART gets millions of dollars for the community. It's one Tampa, it's one HART, and it's one community. So you pull a bus from the Social Security office. When I was in this board meeting on May 6th, I don't think it had anything to do with the money. Because why would anybody pull a bus from the Social Security office? Just like why would they remove a bus from Bears to Fletcher from a part of the community? Because number 1 doesn't go down Nebraska. You only have 42. I'm paying, instead of paying $32.50 because I qualify for this, I pay $95. I'm on Social Security. I don't have the type of money to pay to get on that bus. When you get on 20X, again, it runs twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon. In order for me to go home, I gotta pay $4. I gotta pay $4 one way and $4 the other way. Yes, HART helps us with HART Plus. But I have to use that and more, and I'm on Social Security. And again, I'm asking you, because HART gets a lot of money from the government, instead of pulling buses, could you please get somebody to plan to look at that situation, and instead of taking those buses away, okay, do something about it. So that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Staff, Mr. Lemon, you're recognized.
So thank you, Mr. Chair. Ma'am, thank you very much for the comments. If you could coordinate with Chris Cochran. Chris, will you stand up, raise your hand? on your specifics regarding connections to Tampa Housing as well as the Social Security Office, Chris would be happy to look into that and get back to you expeditiously.
Mr. Knight, you recognize.
Yes, good morning, thank you. Can you hit on that a little? I thought that was already in the process to bring that in.
Excuse me, hold, ma'am, hold on.
Yeah, bring up date to, like the Social Security and the housing route, and also that way there. I think it's something already in progress on that, right?
Yeah, as part of the July service changes, I believe we did make the reconnected to Tampa Housing as well as the Social Security Office. However, there was also comments about the Route 20X, so I just want to make sure that we've resolved all of the concerns that the customer has brought up. So I'll have her coordinate with Chris to look into the details and then respond.
Okay.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
Thank you. I just want to thank the person who came up. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. I think your points are excellent. I worked and asked for us to bring back the bus to get it to the Social Security and Tampa Housing. I understand. But I think you had broader issues of equity and the kinds of route changes that we made that did just what you said, and that is just what I've had issues with. So I thank you, because I think you highlighted really important things, and none of it is being forgotten. I understand.
Neil, good morning, Mr. Cosentino.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. My name is Neil Cosentino. I'm with a small public interest think tank. We heard the problem. We're here with solutions. Think tanks try to solve problems. We're talking about community circulators. So going back into history, Sharon Den, we went to Sharon Den and we said, let's do circulators. And she was very helpful. She put a bunch of packages together. She was ready to go with circulators, community circulators. And at the last minute, she canceled that because there were no funds. The next thing we did, we went to State Representative Galvano, who is now the Speaker of the House, and asked him to establish TBARTA, thinking that we could embed in TBARTA a circulator program. Well, he started TBARTA. We have TBARTA. All the bus systems met. We thought we'd get a regional bus system, but we went to a number of their meetings and nothing happened. So then the next thing we did is we went to Plant City and we talked to the people there and said, Heartline will find some money for you to do a circulator, which they did, and it failed. And there were a lot of reasons why it failed. We said, do it yourself, don't let HART do it because you'll learn da-da-da-da-da. I'm not beating up on HART, I'm just saying that would have been the smart way to go. Anyway, what happened, it failed. So now we have the money and we have the opportunity to do circulators. And a circulator is a very simple idea. It says, if you do a test model with the community and give them part of that 40 million you'll get, then the community, you keep the money, Heartline keeps the money, but the community buys what it needs from Heartline. For example, they would purchase from their account, they would lease the jitney buses. They would buy insurance under your umbrella program. They would buy licensing. They would buy accounting. They would buy fuel. They would buy maintenance. They would buy legal services. They would buy driver training. They would buy human resources. They would basically, Heartline becomes their consultant, a partner, okay? So then you have a chance, you do a beta program, we have the money for it now. The community itself will get what you call curb rights. Does everyone know what curb rights is? It's wonderful. It means you can stop anywhere and pick up people. So curb rights would be one thing. They would be a 24/365 mobility system for the community, designed for the community with the help of HART expertise. They would decide on the routes. If they wanted to charge a fare box, they would do that. They would do their own advertising, and so forth. So that basically is why I'm here today, asking you to please have your staff look at this. We have the money for it. But what would happen in the future is each circulator would then feed the main line. You'd have a main line on Nebraska, you would have a main line on Florida and so forth.
Your three-
And the circulators are feeding the main line. Are
Thank
there
you.
any questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Linda Redmond?
Good morning. I'm Linda Raymond, President and CEO of the Tampa Downtown Partnership, and I want to thank all of you who I've met with and spoken to over the last couple of weeks about the Downtowner program. We're asking for your support, as you know, in your resolution today, to support that program going forward with funding through March of 2020, and we hope that you will support that. We look forward to assisting you and working with you very, very closely and Ben Limmer on the maintenance and the management of that program throughout 2020. And I thank you so much and hope that we have your support today. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Plummer?
Good morning, members of the HART Board. Thank you for receiving public comments on this important matter. My name is Kevin Plummer, and I have the honor to serve as chair of the board of the Tampa Downtown Partnership. Transportation, without a doubt, is a complex issue, and I don't pretend for a second to know all the matters that come before this board or to have solutions for your most challenging projects. Nevertheless, I wanted to share comments with you this morning. I am sure each member of this board serves every day with the best of intentions and genuinely seeks to find solutions to the most difficult transportation challenges, not only today, but for the foreseeable future. Today I'm here to encourage you to support Resolution 2019-08-36, the Memorandum of Understanding between the Hillsborough Transit Authority and the Tampa Downtown Partnership. The statistics for the success of the Downtowner speak for themselves. It's a service that has used advanced algorithms to send the proper vehicle to the correct location, assuring the correct and most economical match between riders and vehicles. The development of an app to better serve the community, providing less than a 15-minute wait time. More than 14,000 riders per month and almost 500,000 riders to date, with almost half of those rides shared by 2 or more people. Over 80% of the rides have been completed in electric vehicles, and this is a powerful statement of environmental sustainability in public transportation. This program has improved mobility regardless of age, has been a trusted partner for the downtown workforce, greatly supported the service industry workforce, and has been a welcome bridge between parking areas and work. The Downtowner has also supported the growth of our entertainment, restaurant, and leisure activities industries, and I suspect it has likely had a positive impact on driving under the influence, but I have no data to support that conclusion. This program was established through a public-private partnership, and it has been an incredible demonstration of innovation, initiative, and leadership as the Tampa downtown community sought to create mobility solutions and did so in a manner that was a definitive and to the other efforts of this board and the efforts of others to create solutions. The Downtowner has been a welcome and successful solution and provided mobility, reliability, and convenience to the transportation ecosystem of our city, and you have an opportunity to sustain this asset for our community. I believe that the future includes a combination of ride sharing, public transportation, and a variety of other mobility options that will provide the answers to the future. The Downtowner is just one ingredient to move people downtown without adding to the challenges of parking, congestion, and environmental sustainability. This program is a viable option for the future of Tampa. We all want our city where citizens can thrive, where visitors enjoy themselves, and where our children dream to live as adults. Now is the time for us to come together and to lead. Now is the time to lean into this opportunity, think different, and be different. The board has always made a difference, and I hope you'll continue to do so today and support this resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Karen Kress?
Good morning, board members. I'm Karen Kress. I'm the Director of Transportation and Planning at the Tampa Downtown Partnership. I hope you don't see this as overkill to ask for your support of the Downtowner program today. And I know that Chris Cochran in a few minutes will give you kind of more statistics and some of the data that we've gleaned over the last 3 years. It's been my project. It's been a labor of love. I feel like I'm ready to hand my baby off to the professionals, so I'm hoping that you will accept my child. Just a couple comments. Stephen Murray, who's the CEO of the Downtowner, is also in the room in case there's any questions that come up for him. And we do appreciate you have many, many needs in this community, and it's really a struggle to try to figure out how to balance that. But downtown does need some kind of circulation. The partnership incubated this innovative service, but we cannot house it indefinitely, and HART is definitely the right partner to provide these first and last mile solutions, connections. And while HART determines what that best long-term solution is, this gap funding is really crucial to keep the downtown workers, residents, visitors, seniors, and transit riders moving. Ending it suddenly would be bad for riders and would be bad for all of our organizations. The data-rich metrics show that the Downtowner service is a good return on investment, comparable with some of HART's best routes. Chris Cochran will talk to you a little bit more about this later. We've been working with HART staff for over a year. They've been great to work with, and I realize now probably our biggest mistake was not keeping the board more informed of all these good talks that were happening. You probably have heard that almost half of our rides are now shared. The Downtowner has continued to kind of update and innovate, and they implemented a virtual bus stop system. So we're able to pull more riders together for those rides, and that's resulted in a 15-minute average wait time. All of our vehicles, except for the ADA compliant one, are electric. We think that's important to kind of go green. We serve a variety of users. 22% of them are going to and from major office buildings downtown. Marion Transit Center always comes in our top 5 drop-off locations. We think it's important to serve transit. 10% of our riders are going to and from remote parking lots. We have about 23,000 unique users with heavy usage from the service industry. To get the program going, we worked closely with all the downtown office towers and the hotels and the residential buildings to understand what their needs were. Some of them were so excited about that Fifth Third Bank Center sent out this flyer trying to recruit companies to come downtown because now we had the Downtowner service. And then lastly, we just asked through the app for riders to send us some comments on how we're doing, how things were going. I just want to read you 2 briefly that I thought kind of hit on the good points that we're trying to reiterate today. One of them is, I use the Downtowner every day to get to and from work in Channelside and home in the River Arts District.
Sorry.
Okay, well, they're great comments.
Thank you.
In fact, I can pass them around if you want to read them at your leisure. Thank you for your time.
Lillian Stringer.
Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Lemmer, Mayor, members of the board. I'm Lillian Stringer, Director of Public Relations for the Tampa Housing Authority, and contrary to the other speaker, I came to praise you for working consistently, feverishly with the Tampa Housing Authority to replace this bus service that we had that was taken away previously. It's back now. And the service has also been restored to the Social Security office, which is 1 block from where we are. I want to thank you so much. It isn't often that we work so closely with politicians who promise us things that sometimes we don't get. And I want to thank you very much for at least bringing that back to us. The only issue I have to bring up this morning is the issue of the bus shelters. There are 57 shelters now that are not, they're placed where there is no service. And we are respectfully asking that you would consider moving those to where the riders are and allow them around our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Knight, you recognize.
Yes, I get some information on that as well. You know?
Certainly, if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah, later this morning, we are going to give a presentation on the FY 2020 program of projects that HART Plans has drafted for the board to consider to advance to the Independent Oversight Committee. And one of the primary now-term capital projects is a comprehensive bus shelter and transit amenities program. So more details will be had over the next 2 months on bus shelters.
Okay. Our last speaker is Frank Grabowski.
Good morning. I'm here to talk about the Downtowner issue. again, and this time from the retailer perspective, a little less about the statistics and a little bit more just about the logic and importance of it. I own a European Wax Center. It's a wax and salon, 105 East Jackson Street, in the heart of the office complex. The credibility that I think I bring is that, as far as I can determine, we're the most successful store downtown, but one of the few that can operate 7 days a week, up to 8 p.m., which is what the city has always been asked retailers to do, and so few of us have been able to figure out that puzzle. I really feel that I'm representative of those who are not downtown, the national brands that try to operate on some scale, whether that be the number of hours, the number of customers that we're bringing in, which we've built up to 1,800 a month, the number of 20 hourly employees, and I don't think there's too many organizations, retailers, that have that. The factors for retail success are really stacked against the retailers. In the 5 years that I've been operating, the Downtowner has truly been the one major lifeline that has kept us going. And it's disturbing to think of what life would be like without it. It's very tenuous, even for a success story like us. Every construction project that inconveniences a downtown worker disproportionately hits the retailers. It hits us so hard in the pocketbook. Every parking lot that disappears, it drives customers away, but more importantly, it makes it extremely difficult to be able to hire staff. When we opened, we had gravel lots that were nearby to us, but then the Amalie Arena, when it acquired it for growth purposes, we understand that, but it cut off all of those to 5:30 p.m., which makes the 8 p.m. almost impossible when we're trying to keep the city alive after hours. If the overnight parking garages, much too expensive for an hourly worker or for an employer that has any size of employees, not for a retailer. The only solution has been the remote lots. So we've put all our staff out there like we've been asked to, but without a shuttle that can guarantee that safety of getting back to these lots at 9 p.m. or being to their appointments on time, it's not tenable. Also, I would point out from the customer standpoint that Tampa, and I just don't think that people realize this, it's two different cities that's divided by Florida Street, Florida Avenue. The restaurants that you would choose to go to at lunch, the direction that you come in and out from one direction or another.
Mr. Grabowski, your 3 minutes are up.
I had so much more to say.
Thank you very much.
I implore you, hold on to the service for us.
Thank you for coming.
Now moving to our Chief Executive Officer's report. Good morning.
So, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I have several safety and security updates to start my CEO's report. In light of the senseless and tragic events that took place in Texas and Ohio over the weekend, the Transportation Security Administration held a national conference call with transit agencies from across the country that HART participated on. Although there is no credible threat to transit agencies, the TSA is advising all southeastern United States transit agency to be placed on medium alert. Safety and operations staff have already been in communication, and HART Security Contractor has already put out an alert notification to remain extra diligent on our transit system. Furthermore, a see something, say something reminder message has been sent to all bus operators, and HART has also communicated with local law enforcement as well. We will continue to update the board as necessary. Moving on to the statewide safety symposium, HART and the Florida Transit Safety and Operations Network hosted transit leaders to Florida's first statewide transit safety and security symposium, which took place on Monday, July 29th at the Tampa River Center. That was really designed to bring together Florida's transportation leaders to
have a conversation about safety and security solutions to improve bus operator and customer safety on public transportation systems within our state. Roughly 120 CEOs, nationally recognized safety and security expert, transit operations, leadership, were on hand to discuss how public transportation systems currently grapple with safety and security concerns. The symposium topics range from transit worker altercations to hazard and threat identification. Vendors, including AeroGuard, HART safety barrier manufacturer, were also there, and they actually had on available the actual bus operator partition that HART will install on all buses by the end of the year. The symposium gathered so much interest that we had to live stream it on the HART YouTube page for transit agencies that could not make it to Florida in person. Moving on with the Ride with Respect campaign and honoring our commitment to our employees, we launched the HART Ride with Respect campaign on July 1st. Every day, more than 300 employees and 34,000 customers share space on HART buses, vans, and the streetcars. Being considerate of one another contributes to the well-being, safety, and security of everyone. Through the power of social media, we launched a service as well as updated all HART Headways signs to read Ride with Respect. And central to the campaign is a series of emotional short videos following HART operators throughout their day, showing their family interactions, hobbies, devotions, to help customers and the general public better connect with their HART bus operator. The first in the Ride with Respect video series features Letitia Jones, who I believe is in the audience. She's a HART Plus van operator who has driven for HART for 7 years, and this video was released on July 29th. Many thanks to the ATU leadership, Curtis Howard, the International Vice President, who trusted the new HART Communications and Marketing team to build this community-based campaign featuring ATU union members as well as professional operators. We look forward to the great work of this effort in partnership with the ATU as we build the Ride with Respect message throughout our community. I am going to take a moment to play this video.
I love the morning shift at HART. It reminds me of getting up early in the morning, making breakfast for my boys. I am truly blessed to be able to get up early in the morning, feed myself a healthy meal, and go and perform a great job for my passengers and for HART. Every time I put my uniform on and I wear this HART across my chest, I put it on with pride, knowing that they could have hired anybody, but they chose me. So it is my job to go represent HART the best of my ability. Knowing that I am the first one some people see in the morning and just me having a positive attitude, I kind of look at it like, I don't know what kind of day they've had or night they've had. So I want to make sure I have a smiling face, letting them know I am there to help them and to get them to point A to point B in the safest manner that I know how. I'm a pastor over at a small church, around about 50 members, and pastoring a church helped me do my job in the community. It plays a great networking with, talking with people, just empowering people about life and how life can be positive and be productive in our communities. And that's what I really love to do. Going to work to drive the paratransit division, it's almost just like pastoring the people in a church, but pastoring them on a bus. And by doing that, they get on the bus, you don't know what kind of day they've had, and just a beautiful smile and good morning, may I help you, have changed their whole tone for the day. So that's my purpose when I get behind that wheel on that bus, is to make somebody's day better than when it started off. I find picking up the disabled and the elderly a rewarding job. You really help people when you do that. And so that's why I picked the paratransit division. We are here doing our job, and we just want you to respect us. We're doing you a service. And if we could get that across to our community, to the ones that ride our buses, that we're doing you a service. My life have a meaning for driving for HART, just to reach out to touch somebody. I just believe that's my calling, to be here, just to be able to be saying encouraging words to somebody. I'm Letitia Jones. I'm a mother. I'm a pastor. I'm a baseball coach. I'm a servant community with HART.
Reverend Jones. Reverend Coach, Ms. Jones, you want to come to the microphone a minute, please? Ms. Jones, come here.
Yes, sir.
On behalf of this board, thank you for what you do for HART. Thank you for what you did to take that taping there, and thank you for all you do in this community. Not only you're a HART driver, you're a minister, you're a coach, you were fixing breakfast. What was that?
Pancakes with bananas. They ate all of them.
I take it your boys like that, don't they?
Yes.
Yes, we want to thank you for all you do. We appreciate it very, very much. Mr. Knight, you recognize.
We appreciate all you do, and I know even before I got on the board that I've seen you around doing great things. But another thing, you say you're very appreciative of having a job and doing the things that at this time, I know it's heavy on a lot of our hearts about the things that have happened, El Paso and Dayton. What better time to, can lead us in a prayer for a moment of silence in reference to, if it's okay.
Yes, I got a note from Mr. Knight to have a moment of silence for those that were killed in El Paso and Dayton this past weekend, and senseless killings. Just makes no sense at all. So if we could just have a moment of silence, we appreciate it very, very much.
So you want me to pray this?
If you want to, ma'am, you're Reverend, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Father God, we thank you just for allowing us to make it to this board meeting as safe as we can. Oh God, we pause now and lift up those ones in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, God. Families are planning funerals now. Folks are with sorrow and their heads are held down. But we serve a good God, a God that will make a way out of no way, a God that will turn all their sorrow into joy. Now, God, we ask that you strengthen this family. We ask you strengthen these states, these cities, oh God. We ask that you bring them closer together with love and unity. And we know if you are the first and the last in our lives, everything will work according to your will. And we do thank you this morning. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Summer Blast Pass program has been relaunched. Ridership for the Hillsborough County youth ages 5 to 18 reached over 26,000 rides in July during the second month of this promotion. As a reminder, HART offers free rides to youth all summer long. Last time HART offered such a promotion, but at a cost of $30 for 3 summer months, was in 2017 when ridership reached over 15,000 during the course of the entire 3 months of the program. Happy to report that total ridership for the summer of 2019 through the first 2 of the 3 months eclipsed 43,000 rides, shattering the previous high of 37,000 rides in total back in 2015. Moving on to the Back to School Bash with Titus O'Neill. HART partnered with Titus O'Neill and the Bullard Family Foundation to help transport students and their families to the 2019 Back to School Bash. The event, which took place on Saturday, August 3rd at Raymond James Stadium, provided fun activities for families, free school physicals, eye exams, haircuts, backpacks, and school supplies to K through 12 students. Free transportation was provided by all of HART's modes of transportation. The HART Maintenance Facility Tour with Hillsborough County Community College students. On July 24th, more than 60 students and faculty from Hillsborough Community College visited and toured the HART maintenance facilities. The students were broken up into groups by their class, diesel technology, light automotive, and body shop repair, and briefed on the daily maintenance operations of the HART transit vehicles. In the end, students asked lots of questions and were very appreciative on what they learned from our maintenance team. So looking forward to more partnerships with our local universities and colleges. Next, I'd like to announce a couple of new hires, so please join me in welcoming the newest additions to the HART team. First off is Director of Human Resources, Crystal Hunley. Crystal, if you could stand up, please, and be recognized. She comes to us via the federal government, where she supported service members and their families as the training director, and most recently worked as the Human Resources Manager with Lowe's Home Improvement. Crystal's experience for learning and training is extensive and robust, and she even consulted for the Semper Fi Fund for the past 2 years for caregivers of injured and ill service members. Crystal has a chocolate lab, puppies, enjoys reading, and wants to be good at crafting. Crystal is very excited to join the HART team and is very interested in building relationships across the organization as well as the local community. Crystal, welcome. Next is Jacqueline Haldo, is a public sector leader with over 2 decades in executive leadership, communications, public relations, customer relations, and advertising. Ms. Haldo served as Chief of Staff for New Jersey Transit, where she was responsible for operating to support on-time, safe, customer-focused transportation services for the nation's 3rd largest provider of bus, rail, and light rail transit in New Jersey, linking New York and Philadelphia. Jackie also served as Deputy Chief of Staff for the state of New Jersey, where she planned and implemented day-to-day strategic communication strategies supporting policies and big projects. In addition, Jackie directed a digital communications effort with over 1 million followers, with messaging directly aligned with strategic objectives and big events. So Jackie, welcome to the team as well. I'd like to close with Mission Max and some HART services. HART implemented service adjustments in the fall of 2017, which are commonly referred to as Mission Max, to improve overall service efficiency and reduce operating costs. The Board of County Commissioners voted in January of 2018 to support HART service enhancements with a $2.3 million operations subsidy. The Board of County Commissioners maintained that same subsidy level of $2.3 million in 2019. This vital subsidy has stabilized and maintained critical service for over 23,000 customer trips each month. A map of those services as well as the individual routes is up on the screen for your information. As you may recall, during my interview process, we talked a lot about fiscal discipline and the overall performance of the agency. Now that we are well past the first 100 days, it's clear to me that really HART could have previously implemented financial strategies that would have been more advantageous to the overall financial strength of the organization. But as I've also mentioned, I am undoubtedly a look-forward person, We're moving HART into the future and building a performance-based budget for 2020, as we previously provided to the board last month. Basically, we're going to build service and build a budget to achieve that service. It will come as no surprise that our biggest challenge in building our FY 2020 budget is awaiting the successful outcome of the transportation surtax. Financial stability and self-reliance, though, are very, very important to me as a leader of HART. And as I understand it, the Board of County Commissioners recently passed a motion offering a $2.3 million loan to HART, contingent on HART presenting to the Board of County Commissioners with a business plan for which the funds will support. HART understands the pressure of any governmental budget and that the county has a number of critical needs with very, very limited resources as well. I've asked the senior leadership to explore ways to offset expenses at HART from October 1st through the end of 2019 to ensure that we can maintain current service levels while we await a final resolution on these surtax dollars. We are working through that process now, so the results of the cost reduction exercise are still unknown. Once we've identified those cost reduction strategies, HART will be meeting with the county staff to talk about a collaborative approach to maintain all of our service levels. Until we are assured that HART will receive the necessary funding to achieve the global transformation the voters have charged us with, our frame budget is very, very lean. HART's mission is to take people to places that enhance their lives, and our goal is to maintain current service for the 34,000 customers that HART serves on a daily basis. This concludes my comments today. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I think it's really important. I think there's some confusion about the resources that HART has in terms of this. Let me just say, for the last 2 years, and I initiated this on the Board of County Commissioners, that we provided $2.3 million in additional operating costs. And again, I did that based on the fact that I will tell you, every transit agency in the whole state of Florida, but for Pinellas County and Hillsborough County, does provide, and sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars out of their countywide dollars to support transit. Our transit, as we all know, is the most underfunded transit in the nation, bar none, by a long shot, far more underfunded than Pinellas. So I had these $2.3 million in the budget for 2 years for operating, additional operating, especially after the terrible Mission Max cuts that were made to really vital services. Part of what you heard this morning. That I asked again for that to be put in the budget this year. Somehow it wasn't, but I didn't see that until right when Jeff Seward was getting ready to leave. Then we had our tragedy with a bus driver. But and then I had talked to Ben Limmer and saw that we were that $2.3 million somehow, and I checked in with the county, had been taken out with, and that they had asked Mr. Limmer to, whether or not HART needed it. Well, let me just say, I follow this budget very closely. It's 13.3 in your book, if you have your book, page 13.3. This budget is all the money that HART has. HART doesn't have a reserve fund. HART has a checking account that it draws on, and the reserves are part of that checking account. When I first got on the board in the first year, we started having, towards the end of the year, a cash flow problem. It set my hair on edge. I am very terrified looking at this, that we are about to hit another actual cash flow paycheck problem here. If you look at this, you can see that we go down right here. This is November 18. You can see that peak there. We're just going straight down here. I called up Mr. Limmer the other day. We have 11.5 in our operating reserves already. We are in bad, bad territory. It will go down. This doesn't include August. If I just go by regular costs, we're down to 2.5 million by October. I don't even know if that includes the safety doors. I don't know. And so I don't see how we can, and as I understand that cost has now gone up to 2.7 million to HART that we're providing in services. I do not want to see us cutting services anymore. And I'd like the support of this board for Mr. Limmer to go forward to the county commission and make that plea. And I would feel remiss if I didn't bring this to everyone's attention in terms of, I think there's just been some confusion about what our resources are. And I think it's our duty and responsibility, I feel like mine, knowing this, that we should, because I feel like I don't even know if we can continue these operations till the end of the year based on this. I just think we're in really serious territory. So I'd like to make a motion to have this board in full support of asking Mr. Limmer to come before the county commission to explain our budget issues and support for this until we have tax, if we have the sales tax relief. And if we do, then I can see totally returning that money to the county commission. But if we don't, I just think this is a critical cut in services that I don't want to at least do it without us having the attention to this and knowing that we're going to do this moving forward, because I just don't see how we can do both.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner Smith. Before I get to you, Mr. Justice, let me comment on this. Okay. The Board of County Commissioners made a motion this last budget reconciliation that if Mr. Limmer explained it correctly, that if this board, Mr. Limmer and this board decided to want the $2.3 million, that he had to come before that board, the County Commission Board, explain to them about the loan with a business plan. Okay. Mr. Limmer has talked to the county, Mr. Merrill, has talked to Ms. Wise, so I see FO, Chief Financial Administrator, and talking about a loan of $2.3 million. Details will be worked out if he came before us. No interest, loan could be 10 years from the county commission to fund HART with the $2.3 million in the budget coming forward. Mr. Lemon and I have talked about that. He explained to it a few minutes ago about his remarks as to what he would like to do. I think he's taking the right approach on this. The Board of County Commissioners, the county administrator and staff are willing to work with him on this. I think it's the right approach. Let me say this, and I might step on some toes and make some people mad. It is the responsibility of this board to make a decision or make those decisions on how HART is funded. We talked about a couple of years ago an increasing the millage that HART has the opportunity to do so. We did not do that. We need to start thinking about how we can find a dedicated funding source if the tax is not upheld by the Supreme Court of the state of Florida. I hope that it is, but that's not our call. That is now in the hands of the Florida State Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court upholds that tax, we're fine. If they don't, then we need to look at what we can do. This is our responsibility as a board, as a board of HART. The county commission is not their responsibility to fund HART. Never has been, never will be. It's not in the law. It is this board. So Mr. Limmer and his staff are working on a plan at this particular point in time. They'll be talking to Ms. Wise, who's the Chief Financial Administrator for the county. If that determination is that they need that $2.3 million and a loan, they will bring it back to the county commission and we will work on that. I know we have a motion on the floor to take it forth, but that is where we are and what we should be doing. Councilman Schisler, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the clarification on that. What the nature of the $2.3 million in prior years, was that a loan or was that just an outright grant?
No, it was not a loan.
Okay. Why this sudden change to a loan classification?
Because of the mere fact is that the constraints that our budget has, as a county commission's budget, we are looking at, everyone knows, the possibility of a downfall in the economy. We have some very tight, strict restraints on us that we have to fund also. You know, we were depending on the tax ourselves. We don't have that tax now. We don't know what we have to move forward, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, and it makes sense. And I do support the fact that that we're behind Mr. Limmer and doing whatever he can to bolster the tax receipts. I would caution one thing at the risk of this chart here. Keep in mind, it's an annual cyclical cash flow summary. Come November 1st, people's property taxes are going to start being paid again, and those monies will start flowing back into our coffers. Is it a long-term solution? No. But your commentary that this is a precipitous decline, it's going to spike back up again when property taxes come back in. But it doesn't address the long-term issue. And I would agree with the chairman that we have the ability to do what we need to do with the property tax millage rates. I know we're at 0.5 again, or 0.05 again for this year, but if the surcharge, or if the transportation tax is not upheld, then we need to seriously look at that again, for next year. But this year, I don't like the idea of a loan, but I do understand it. As long as the payback time is long enough that it doesn't impinge future operation capacity for the agency, I think we need to go forward with it. But I would ask Mr. Limmer, what type of cuts are you looking at? Are we looking at personnel? Are we looking at equipment? Or is it too early to say?
It's honestly too early to say, but everything's on the table. What I don't want to do is take it, any service from our 34,000 customers per day, so service cuts as well as any fare increase. It would be an absolute last resort and something I'm looking to not touch. But there's a variety of capital projects as well, other financial sustainability measures we can take in order to bridge us from October 1st through the end of 2019. So more details on that are yet to come.
Well, I would hope that some of the cuts that you would look at, no matter how small they are, would be some of the things like the travel for the board and stuff like that. That's a good place to start. And we start at the top and work our way down, as opposed to hitting drivers and maintenance, because if we start hitting maintenance, we're going to have problems. So that would be my concerns. But I do support at least the intention.
Commissioner Overman, you recognize.
Thank you. I've thought long and hard about this particular situation, and I do respect and appreciate the comment that Hillsborough County, as a county where other counties do invest in their transit systems, I take the same perspective of a responsibility in recognizing that the county's goal is to provide services to our citizens. And when we went through the process of addressing Mission Max that had a goal primarily of how do we provide the greatest amount of ridership improvement for the dollars that we had within a budget, if I'm reading what I think had happened. The challenge we have, the county has affordable housing properties all over, and not just on those Mission Max locations. We have communities that have moved into affordable housing properties that the county has invested in that are not on Mission Max routes, where people have moved there and need transit resources. So while, yes, the county has a tight budget and HART has a tight budget, and we have a mission to provide services to those in our citizen that where we invest in transit resources can best serve that community, I think it's critically important that we get real about what we have in the way of serving those communities that are on the ground now, that have been impacted, just as we heard this morning, by changes that were made in order to implement an efficient level of service. And I understand that, but we have now on the plan several studies for transit-oriented development, for improvement of our services, for finding a balance between coverage and frequency and ridership increase on our docket for the next year, that if we're going to actually address that, we need to have the resources to be able to implement those services. So while I do appreciate that that the 2.3 had been previously provided. I completely appreciate that it was done as a grant. I appreciate that the county is wrestling with resources, and we are going to be investing, if everything works the way hopefully it will, a significant amount of resources in affordable housing resources in order to address the 20,000 people that are on a waiting list to provide affordable housing. Those people don't have vehicles, or if they do, they're living in them. And so I think it's critically important that we pay attention to the opportunity to stabilize our balance sheet and make sure we have reserves. And if we have already agreed, which I think we have, on our millage rate and can readdress that issue, we're going to have to get very careful about respecting the fact that we may go through a recession and we need to have the reserves. Because a cut in service when we are in a recession is the last time we need to be making that cut. People are scrambling to try and get work. They're trying to get jobs. They're trying to get to jobs. They're trying to get to the hospitals. They're trying to get to various different places. And to be able to do that, cut in service would be critical to the sustainability of our community. And I think sustainability is an important priority that we need to focus on. So while I have a little bit of challenge or frustration with the idea of making it a loan when we have an agency that may not have the resources to effectively pay it back, when we've made it as a grant and have other communities in our state that have invested in their transit systems, I think it's important that we do here, and I look forward to the presentation to the county. But keep in mind, we're investing a great deal of resources to look at how we improve our service. And in order to be able to deliver that, we've got to have the capital reserves to have a sustainable system. And that is why my concern was about pulling back those resources or creating them as in a dynamic as a loan. So thank you.
Commissioner, Mr. Knight, you recognize.
Yeah, thanks, some good points. And I was thinking of something else too. Being that we're gonna make a decision later on, even with the downtown partnership with over 500 ridership, I also understand that there's a grant, like a MASH grant, to also work together on. But even with the county commission, and not in a way where a loan, but perhaps somehow can have funding, just like what they're asking HART, in a partnering way that if it's justifiable, that can have some monies that can go toward even like the downtown, some of those other areas, even like our housing authority where we're gonna add things that make sense and that can help right now. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask, but from the county commission, even the city, councils or whatever, can bring some funding to help HART, even with our budget, how it look now, and how things gonna go later on. Maybe somehow we can, work these out, but continue making votes and decisions that's gonna help in other areas. So maybe you can take some of that and what y'all think on it.
We have a motion on the floor. I'm going to ask Commissioner Kemp to repeat the motion she made.
I want this board to support Ben Limmer going before the county commission to ask for the $2.3 million. I would like to just, so I'll just put it at that. That's my motion. I hope the support of this board going forward now that we've seen the critical need. And I'll just go back and say a couple of things. One is that I totally understand the cycle of the budget, but even this is below what it's been in my time. I mean, I do think we run into cash flow problems. Second, it's just my perception, or not perception, but the board is putting in the countywide dollars. There's two funds. The countywide dollar is a fund that's supported 40% by the cities.
Commissioner Kemp, I asked for a motion.
I gave the motion, but I did want to say.
Well, explain the motion again. What's the motion?
The motion is to ask to have Ben Limmer go before the county commission and get a request, with our request, supported by this board, for $2.3 million in funds
And that
to fund our.
That $2.3 million is a loan, the $2.3 million is outright allocation to HART? Which
I
one?
would just like $2.3 million, and it may not be what, but the county does have the money to do that. $2.3 million unless if we get the sales tax, it could be paid back.
So you're asking for a loan?
Loan. She's not saying that. She's letting the
That's
county
what I'm-
decision. She's letting the county decide.
That's what I'm
in
asking
terms
her
of
in the
votes.
motion, because it's going to
She's not
depend
gonna
on whether we
predetermine
support
the
the
votes
motion
of
or
the
not.
county.
What's
Yes.
the motion?
Yeah.
Is it a loan, or are you asking for outright allocation?
No, I just am asking him to go before the board and ask and explain and ask on our behalf for the $2.3 million.
And to go negotiate
Point of
terms.
clarification.
Money.
Yes, ma'am.
She is not gonna predetermine the vote of the county commission on their budget. She's saying to come in and make a plea for $2.3 million of additional resources, and the county commission would determine if it was a loan or a grant.
Well, that could very well determine the vote of this board. If someone wants to do it, I mean, the vote could be very, very well, people support the mere fact of asking for $2.3 million allocation, or a $2.3 million loan. That's why I keep asking, what's the motion? Clarify the motion. So you're not asking for a loan, just asking the board to
For
come forward with
$2.3 million, and we can just see what
That was
the,
seconded by Commissioner Smith. See no further discussion.
I have a.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I raised my hand. I mean, I do think, I looked at the budget and I was gonna make that point, so I appreciate Commissioner Kemp's comments on the budget and the cash flow situation that the mayor raised or assemblyman raised. But I think one of the things that we have to be careful of is wanting to provide services to every person. Marine Max did come with a mission, so I appreciate Commissioner Smith's interpretation, because that's what we thought, and we know we hit some breakage, I would call it, in a business terminology, and then we went back and recorrected that. But I think we have to be, the key word to me is balance. We have to balance services with the funding that we have. I really do appreciate the county commission's interest in terms of helping us get to either a Supreme Court decision and or a millage discussion or decision. But I still think that the overall goal of HART is to provide the best services we can for the individuals that need public transit, and we need to look at our declining ridership. So all of those are factors that I look at the monthly reports and look at the statistics, and I think we have to really own those statistics in terms of who's actually riding, what they're riding, how often they're riding, and the $2.3 million from my perspective would be a loan that would be paid back, because then we're holding accountable taxpayer dollars. I mean, I just think it's very easy to sit here and say, we're going to wait for the Supreme Court. We've already, as taxpayers, we voted to raise our taxes. So there's a pool of money being collected, and I understand that there's a process where there's going to be a decision made. And if that's not the right decision, then we go back and raise taxpayers. But if we're talking about hitting the taxpayers here and hitting the taxpayers here, and they really haven't seen an efficient application between the county and HART, I think, in terms of maximizing services, I think that's our responsibility as well, is to talk about it in a coordinated, collegial, balanced way. So I remember when I was at the state government and they talked about adding, places where they were going to build homes, whether they be for affordable housing or non-affordable housing, there was always a component part of an expectation of that participation was transit. It wasn't like it was the responsibility of a separate institution. If you were going to make a decision to build affordable housing, part of your determination was you participated in the transit delivery. So I would just plant that seed with the county commissioners as you're looking at your budget. But I do appreciate the motivation and the interest behind the discussion this morning, and I think it's imperative that we send the right signal, and that I would support Mr. Limmer going to the county commission and asking for a $2.3 million loan.
Commissioner Oldman, you recognize?
Just to clarify one point, because I've heard this statement made in a variety of different avenues, but we've actually seen an increase in ridership. A pretty nice one, consistently, month over month over month, with the exception of, actually even in June, there was an increase over June. So I just want to make sure it's clear. We have actually seen an increase in ridership, whereas a lot of transit agencies have seen a decline. So the operating organization we have here is doing a marvelous job. And I you know, to hamstring it from being able to meet its mission by not having answers about the lawsuit, unfortunately, or the surtax, it makes it difficult. So I think making these resources available to stabilize our goals, I guess, probably, or mission, would be very helpful. So I will support the motion.
Any further discussion? We have a motion by Commissioner Kemp, second by Commissioner Smith. All of those in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion adopted. You will not understand what I said. So, Mr. Lemon, you done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. General Counsel.
Yes, sir. A couple of things. I'll try to be brief. Update on the litigation. As you probably know from reading the paper, notice of appeal has been filed. Cross appeals have been filed by all of the defendants, including HART, which means we're essentially making all of the arguments we made at the underlying litigation to try to preserve the Article 11 as it was passed, because it is now at issue in its entirety. One of the things that's also come about, and you have an item dealing with the increase in the budget. By the way, bear in mind that budget item deals with the 5-year contract, is not simply related to this litigation. But one of the things Offered Transportation has done is they've retained Raul Cantero. Mr. Cantero is a distinguished jurist in Florida. He was a former chief of the Supreme Court of Florida. And although those of us who ascribe to the analytical theory of jurisprudence would like to think the arguments are what is dispositive, it is always helpful to have a representative of your cause who is familiar with the people to whom he's advocating that cause and with whom he has a certain affinity. And Mr. Cantero has all of that. To this date, AFT, Offered Transportation, has not asked that we participate in the cost of Mr. Cantero's representation, but we are hoping to see what we can do to cooperate in our presentations to try to minimize the expense for HART. That having been said, there are issues that are unique to HART, so we do need to remain involved in the litigation. We're trying to cut the briefs down because the Supreme Court is not exactly happy with getting 10 different briefs, which are repetitive and redundant. They're not interested in long and repetitive oral argument, so we're looking at trying to basically allocate that essentially to Mr. Cantero to the extent we can, but we want to make sure our arguments are made, so we will do so. We may file a supplemental brief, but not re-argue the issues that are going to be argued in the primary brief. We are not in need of a closed session. The discussions that had occurred with the possibility of some settlement did not go very far, so we do not need to have the closed session today. I believe at the last meeting you authorized a closed session for each of your regular meetings. So if something should come up in the interim, we will be able to have a closed session at the September meeting. So that's sort of an update on what's going on with the litigation. There's an item before you. It's a resolution. This was requested by Director Melendez, who is not able to be here today. And it's a resolution that would allow this board to decide to allow limited telephonic participation at meetings. We did a similar thing. I say we, the HART Ad Hoc Committee did a similar thing with respect to Mrs. Shanahan's participation, in which that ad hoc committee voted to allow the participation telephonically in full. The reason they would need to do that is our policies do not provide for telephonic participation and telephonic voting. Robert's Rules of Order allow it if the board approves such a process. So the ad hoc committee did approve that process, and it did so only upon the event that there was a quorum in person, so that telephonic participation could be permitted. The resolution I've drafted for you is a somewhat more limited resolution, and it's simply because I think you may want to consider this policy. You may decide not to have this policy. It's your decision. I'm just presenting you the vehicle by which you make that decision. You may decide to allow a board member to participate once a year telephonically. You may allow telephonic participation as much as you would like, but you need to do so pursuant to a policy or a resolution that you approve. The resolution before you today simply reflects a temporary standing rule for this board to allow participation through November 1, which essentially means this meeting, because it takes effect upon approval, your September meeting, and your October meeting. I limited it because if you want to do this at all, you may want to keep it in a limited fashion so you can reevaluate it and decide on a go-forward basis what your policy is supposed to be. So that is the background for this. There's nothing magical to the time period. You can make it apply to this meeting only. What we have done, however, is we do require that there be a quorum in person in order for the meeting to even to be held. But the participation would be in full. It would include debate, deliberation, and voting on any action the board is intended to take. So that is essentially the summary of the rule. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if the board wishes to move in this direction, I need a motion to approve the resolution as prepared or as amended.
Any discussion on the resolution? What's your pleasure?
May I ask a question? How would somebody indicate that they're going to participate by, telephonically? It would have to be kind of in advance of the meeting?
Yes, ma'am. What happens currently is they notify the CEO. For example, I believe Director Melendez is on board. There's a telephone connection, and he has been listening but not yet participating. But it would have to be a notice in advance in order for us to make the telephonic arrangement. Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
I just like to express that I don't generally feel comfortable with an arrangement like that except in a special circumstance, because I think it's really important no, I didn't even know about Mr. Melendez, or Director Melendez, but I just think unless there's a extenuating circumstance, I just don't like to see that happen with the board. I think it's important to have people present and available as part of board service.
Okay, so what's your pleasure on the resolution? Commissioner Overman, you recognize.
Yeah, I'm not really crazy about telephonic attendance because it tends to have the people stop showing up when that's an option. But in this case, there is the requirement that a quorum is still physically present. There are times where people happen to have to be somewhere else. It happens. And I do think limiting the number of times that someone actually does that so they don't make a habit of just making sure they're never here. Because there's normally a quorum. So not that anybody would typically do that, but to avoid the concern, I do appreciate the fact that there is at least 7 of the 13 members are required to be in physical attendance before that's accepted. Does that mean, and my question in terms of accommodation, that we all need to make sure that we indicate that we're physically going to be here so that the person who needs that or our board administrator is aware that a request by telephonic interest has to come in by a certain period of time so that it can be accommodated and that we have enough people that have a quorum. So that's my only concern. I did not realize that Mr. Mendez was present via telephone. I think that needs to be made clear. But also I think it is going to be incumbent on us as a board, if we go forward with something like this, that there be a process put into place to verify that is an exception rather than the rule as far as attendance or an accommodation. So.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, just based on the comments I've heard, maybe we make this resolution simply for today, not to make it for any other meeting. And I've heard comments about possibly coming back with a policy that would be more specific in terms of how it functions, how it's limited, et cetera, and I can do that if you would like.
Well, before we get there, Ms. Shanahan had her hand up, and then we'll come back to that point. Ms. Shanahan, you recognize.
Yeah, I would support the resolution as it's currently drafted. I think, as somebody who makes every attempt to be at a meeting, but sometimes, you have conflicts, we all have conflicts, that it would be nice to have it as an option to be able to call in. I do think we should be noticed if a member's on the phone and participating in the meeting. I don't know if he was waiting for this vote, but I would support the resolution as drafted.
Mr. Knight, you recognize.
Yeah, I would love for the ones at the meeting, if some call in or whatever reason that they can't make it, maybe listen and whatever, but as far as voting, the ones, if you got a 7 quorum, then it should be here. I don't believe in all that other.
Mr. Smith, you recognize.
Yes, I would suggest limiting, when you bring back the motion, and I would support it for today, so Commissioner Melendez can participate fully in the rest of the meeting, but when you bring something back, I think the idea of limiting it to maybe twice a year per board member would be one way to address Commissioner Overman's concerns. I would like to have the board members notified by email as soon as possible whenever a member is going to be participating by telephone. It might happen that, I mean, I can imagine commuting from Ruskin as I do to this meeting with various traffic conditions on the road, or having some kind of a, once in a while there's a pile up that really takes a lot of time. I can imagine somebody having to call in on the spur of the moment, having run into a flat tire or something that morning. So I think, you know, we might not want to say it's got to be 24-hour notice, but just as soon as possible, and with an announcement at the beginning of the meeting of who is wanting to participate by telephone.
Mayor, you recognize?
Okay. I agree with that, and I think that everyone on this board is very responsible and mature. I would agree with limiting the number, but I also I would have to disagree with you, Mr. Knight, that individuals would be able to vote, because you're going to be at this meeting if at all possible, and if circumstances arise that don't allow you to be here, you call in, that you would still be given the opportunity to vote on that. And I also would suggest that we limit it, if it's 2, if it's 3, whatever that number is, but that it could be left open for exigent circumstances that the board could approve.
Let me say to the county commissioners, we have done this in the past as a county commission. When I had my back surgery, I participated and voted during a county commission meeting. I think the city council, I don't remember doing it recently, but I do remember at one time they were able to do that because of circumstances, and not that you do it all the time, but as a county commission, we have done this, and as a city council, it's been done. So be ever mindful that circumstances will arise. I hope no one has to have back surgery, but we did do this, and we had the opportunity to vote. So we still have this resolution before us. I'm sorry, Mr. Harden, you recognize.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2019-0838 with the modification that it would be limited to 2 times per year per commissioner, unless this board found exigent circumstances to make a deviation from that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Harden, second by Commissioner Shanahan, to approve the motion, the resolution with caveat that it's only allowed twice per. Now let me back up, because this, you said twice per year.
Per year.
This expires November 1.
That's correct. As drafted, it expires November 1. But you can approve it to twice per year because you've got September and October. It ends up being 2 anyway for this one. And what I'm going to have to do after you vote, however you vote, I'm going to need the board to direct me to come back with a policy that describes in detail this process, because that's how your policy revision works. So this is going to be temporary. If you approve it as is, you can limit it to twice, because that's all it is anyway at this point.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Harden, second by Ms. Shanahan, to approve the resolution. See no further discussion. All those in favor, let them know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted. Now on the policy.
Yes, I would request that someone make a motion to direct General Counsel to draft a policy dealing with telephonic participation, addressing the variables we discussed today.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Overman, second by, I don't know who it was, Mr. Harden, to bring back the policy. Any further discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, let them know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted.
Mr. Chairman, the last item is David Mechanic has asked me to put his sentiments on the motion with respect to 10A. Do you want me to wait till 10A or read it now?
Let's wait till 10A.
Wait till then?
Yes.
Okay. That's it.
Are you done?
Further.
That's it? Okay. All right, employee recognitions.
Good morning, Ruthie Reyes-Burkhardt, Chief Operating Officer for HART, and this morning I'd like to recognize for the Operations Division the Operator of the Month, Mr. Rolando Salazar, who has been employed by HART since May of 2008. Mr. Salazar loves his job because it allows him to interact with his patrons. He's happy to be outside every day. Mr. Salazar has been a past participant of the HART Bus Rodeo, and he has received the Million Mile Award for safe driving. Million Mile Award, for those of you unaware, is for those without preventable accidents in service of a million miles. So thank you, Mr. Salazar. Congratulations.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Scott Dravel, Chief of Maintenance and Facilities. I would ask that the following maintenance employees please stand to be recognized when they have their names. For June, Maintenance Employee of the Month, John Murray. John is the Facilities Maintenance General Attendant and has been with HART since October 2007. John has most recently won the On the Spot Award as well for his outstanding dedication to HART customers and HART employees. For Teamster Employee of the Quarter, Philip Peters. Philip is a fleet maintenance supervisor and has been with HART since October of 1986. Philip's positive attitude has been a driving force in continued improvement of the maintenance department. For Storekeeper of the Quarter, George Pedre. George is an inventory storekeeper and has been with HART since August of 1997. George is always willing to assist all employees and continues to come up with ideas to help make the inventory department run smoothly. And for non-bargaining employee of the quarter, Kristen Reyes. Kristen is the Maintenance Administrative Assistant in my right hand and has been with HART since March 2018. Kristen's been instrumental in developing a new onboarding process in the maintenance to ease new hire transitioning. Kristen consistently exceeds the expectations in all areas of her position. Can we come and get a group picture?
Congratulations to all of you.
If we could have our board members join us now.
Oh, that's what you want to do.
Go in front of me.
You need a chair, right?
I can only get that.
I know, I can be in the front.
If I fall.
Yes, that's right. They close your eyes. Oh, they should be sitting.
1, 2, 3.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna move on to our regular agenda, 2020 Independent Oversight Committee, proposed service planning projects.
The item 8A is a presentation by Chris Cochran. As you all know, the transportation surtax, should it be upheld, requires the project agencies to submit a list to the Independent Oversight Committee by September 30th. This is the draft list that we will present here today. We actually presented a high-level overview of this program of projects during the budget presentation last month. This is the draft list. We will bring back a second draft to committee in August, and then you will get a second read at the project list at the September board meeting to move for approval and send the project list to the Independent Oversight Committee. So this is the first of 2 reviews of this project list.
Sir. Good morning, board. Chris Cochran, Director of Service Development. As Mr. Limmer indicated, going to give you a overview of our draft plan for the Independent Oversight Committee's program of projects. As you all know, despite everything that's going on, we are still obligated to put forth a program of projects in in line with the expectations of the charter amendment, in which we are obligated to provide this program of projects to the IOC by September 30th. So to start with, we'll give you a sort of an overview of our vision here, really looking at resetting the baseline of how we are going to move forward in evaluating and developing our network and bus expansion, as well as some of our capital projects moving forward. And that includes establishing the overall vision for the agency that will encompass the entire 30 years of the plan. Overall, really our goal here is to be able to present this to you and help you to better understand how we are going to achieve this vision. So the draft plan is primarily made up of three coordinated elements. First and foremost, continuing these partially funded services that Mr. Limmer presented in his report earlier, including funds from the 275, the 48, and some of the county services. And then resetting the baseline here, which would involve an overview of our current network and reevaluating how we might move forward and ensuring that we are delivering high quality service, maintaining that focus on customer service, and also reassessing Mission Max. Are there areas of Mission Max that we can bring back to the customers? That has been a subject that we hear a lot from the customers, and ensuring that what we put back is in line with the vision moving forward. And then there's a focus on the capital needs, and this includes everything from infrastructure, technology, our fleet, and shelters for comfort, and anything that we can do to ensure that the customers are getting what they need in line with the expanded bus services. And then thirdly, establishing that vision. And this is really the heart of the project plan, and looking at a major TDP that we would have to redo, understanding that we have a new baseline of revenue for us to establish how we would move forward. And again, that 30-year plan, looking at fixed guideway projects, what would these include, and as well as any other set of premium services that might include express services and such. So again, to remind everybody, we are looking at this under the understanding that we have three buckets of funding to maintain. 45% of our funding looking at enhancing bus services, 35% of it looking at expanded public transit options, and then we have 20% of our funding that is really a little more flexible in what we can do. And looking back at that expanding bus service, this includes express services, circulators, neighborhood services, paratransit, really any kind of mode that we can use to get people around. And then the 35%, looking at exclusive transit right-of-way that would include something in the range of 75% for the length of the service that would be required for any kind of CIT type projects. And then improving the project, and then the remaining funds that could really go into any mix of these projects as well. So diving a little deeper into what exactly is the enhancing bus service funding. So again, we look at this continuing partially funded services that have contributed to ridership increases. Year to date, we have seen about actually just over 4.1% increase in ridership, which is really great. We're exceeding the trend of the nation. And I think we can look to some of the improved frequencies and spans of services that we've been able to put out there since Mission Max. And this also includes routes like 48 and 275 that were partially funded by FDOT, which are doing exceptionally well as well. Restoring service cuts in FY18, we've identified 3 routes that we really believe strongly would make good candidates for bringing back immediately in this, as part of this program of projects in the near term. And that includes service to Palmetto Beach, as well as the Route 4 in South Tampa, the Route 41 that serves east-west in the Sly Avenue area. These were routes that actually performed relatively well, and again, there were some routes that were really on the cusp as to whether or not we were going to make those cuts. And these were 3 of those that we feel confident would do well in bringing back. And then finally, a focus on reliability with frequency on weekends and weekdays, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into these. So here's an overview map of these enhanced bus services. The 275 and the 48 you can see are in blue. Those we brought back. We started at 275 last summer, and we brought back the 48 last summer. Then the county-funded services you can see in green. In total, these amount to about $6.3 million annually in services. In looking at what services we would restore during the Mission Max services, this includes that 41, 46, and 4, the Route 41 and Sly Avenue a little bit farther up north there, the Route 4 getting down into South Tampa, and of course the Palmetto Beach, which was left kind of vacant, that we hear a lot of interest from our customers in bringing back service to that area. In total, those services would amount to about $4.5 million annually. As we begin to look at how we would use these fundings to improve weekend and weekday improvements and frequencies, here in the orange you can see we would be able to distribute this frequency changes on the weekends pretty evenly throughout the county, being able to provide some good frequency improvements on the weekends. Very strongly in the core where the majority of our services are, but also on the Route 31 to South County, which is something that we've longed to do, and the people have really been calling for a long time down there. So that would afford us a great opportunity to do that. For weekday improvements and frequencies, we would be looking at really focusing that on the core services, looking a lot many of them mirroring the improved weekend frequency improvements, and really growing into that high frequency grid that we've been looking to move towards for a long time. Together between the weekend and the weekday, we're looking at about looking in the range of $7 million for improved services. What's nice is being able to look at this, all of it together. I think gives you a really good idea that we've taken a good strategy and ensuring that our program of projects that we would like to propose covers the county very well. And we are providing, distributing the availability of these funds and improved services to customers throughout the county. And again, also in those areas where people need it the most, I believe we've done a great due diligence in ensuring that we're providing it in those areas. An overview of the requirements, we're looking at about an additional 97,000 hours of service on the road. We would need 56 full-time employees by the end of 2020 and an additional 16 buses, all of which we feel very comfortable at this point in time that we'll be able to bring in by that period of time. So here's a overview of the budget here. On the annual costs, if we were strictly to look at this from an annual standpoint, we're looking at about $16.9 million of total services, and that includes funding the existing services, the restoration of restored Mission Max services, and our weekend and weekday as well. But knowing the way that we implement these services normally are to provide every 4 months we do a markup. So our proposal is to spread this out over the year. This really helps us to be able to ensure that we are able to get the full-time employees on a regular schedule and ensure that we have the buses and resources in place to put this out correctly. In that phasing, it really brings that operating cost for these new services, instead of about $10.5 million, really almost cutting that in half to about $5 million. And while that brings it down to about $11 million if we were to phase it over. I think it is important to keep in mind that as part of this expanding service, we have a great deal of funding that would need to be spent on rolling stock, station shelters, facility upgrades, and technology and infrastructure that we really need to focus on getting into place in the short term. So as we move on to the 35% bucket of funding here, some of the potential funding allocations that we're looking at here include the Envision Tampa streetcar. That's really at the top of the list here. Currently, that project is in project development. It is owned by the city. There is not a exact funding amount allocated to that yet. But this is a city partnership, and we are actively involved in talks with them and how this project may move to HART in the near future. As you all are aware, the Florida-Nebraska Avenue BRT study that has been kicked off. We are a little over a month into that project at this point in time. We are currently in that alternatives evaluation phase. And again, this is not, we don't have an exact amount of money of what that will cost, and that will come out of the study as well. It's important to point out here, this here is a FDOT partnership, as they've put up the full $2.5 million for that funding. And additional guideway corridor studies that we've identified would fall into this category would of course be looking at studying the CSX corridor for potential services in the future, more arterial BRT services like the Florida, Nebraska, and other areas of the county that we've identified as transit enhancement corridors that would make potential good potential services. And then beyond the existing streetcar extension study, what's next for the streetcar? And that would likely fall into that bucket of funding as well. The remaining 20%, this can really fall into kind of a mixed bag of opportunities for us to help supplement studies and look at doing our major TDP update and our 30-year long-range vision plan would be able to come out of this funding. And again, more evaluation of these transit enhancement corridors and really identifying what they are before we move into any significant study phases. We'd also look at being able to cover general staff augmentation and management of any variety of projects related to the annual program of projects that we present on an annual basis. So next steps, we will be developing a more detailed budget for these services to be able to bring back to the August committee. We'll present it to you in a couple weeks for those of you on the committee. Looking for a recommendation to take our final plan to the board, bring it back to you all on September 9th for approval, and then final delivery to the IOC by September 30th. And that concludes my presentation.
Any questions? Commissioner Kemp, you recognized.
Thank you. I'm stuck on one thing here, or a couple things actually. So the 275LX is $2.3 million a year. Okay. And so that is it running hourly. It's also running on the weekends, but FDOT is paying for that now. The entire cost of that now?
At this point in time, it's not entirely funded. No, we are bringing up some funding.
We are, because as I understood when that was adopted by the board, because I specifically asked that question, it was supposed to be totally FDOT, but yeah.
Thank you. For the record, Cindy Stiglitz, interim CFO for HART. So in FY19, there were grants that were aged that were originally allocated for other FDOT funded routes. FDOT allowed us to use those grant funding to support the 275 over the course of this past year to the tune of about $2 million. Going into FY20, that funding is about $240,000 for FY20.
Okay, so we'll significantly lose the funding on that route, which also I'm not sure how this works, but that route goes to Wesley Chapel. It's a regional route, and to me, that we have an obligation, I would think, under all the, I would think legally, in terms of our taxpayers supporting a route, that it would be a route that would be contained in Hillsborough County, that we wouldn't be subsidizing other routes for other areas as well. I know you said 275 LX had high ridership, but I was just looking it up and I saw 10,000 per month as compared to, for instance, 56th Street, which has 102,000 per month, or 10 times more. So again, I'm just going to emphasize that I want to really look closely at the 275 LX and the value of it. And second, I am genuinely and very concerned about Fowler Avenue not having a bus service. I just think for it not to have a regular bus service is something that I just can't imagine. It seems like we have to restore that. I know that that is part of some conversation somewhere, but I think it's really important to look at that.
And I think you should know we are internally, we are looking at how we might be able to get something on the Fowler Avenue, understanding that it's a concern. And if I may, we look at ridership relative to other express routes, and from that standpoint, 275 hangs in there pretty well for other express routes.
Right.
Certainly understanding absolutely where you're coming from.
But express routes are like a tenth, sometimes an eighth of what our regular fixed routes are for the same price. If we're looking at efficiency and service, I just think it's important for people to understand that.
Completely understand.
Thank you.
Ms. Shanahan, you recognize.
Right, is the 275 flex route part of the BRT, which is part of T-BARTA?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Mr. Hart, you recognize.
Thanks for the presentation. It's good that it looks like you're fleshing out a good plan to present to the IOC. I did have a question with regard to the bus rapid transit study, and I think that we also have funding for a transit-oriented development study, and I guess it's been frustrating to me as someone from the private sector how those two ideas can even exist separately, like that they should be studied at the same time. So, I know, for example, that at the end of my street in Seminole Heights, they constructed 100 apartments, and those will hit the tax rolls at probably $20 million. So that taxable value that'll bring, ad valorem tax into the coffers of the city and the county is probably in aggregate more than the combined taxable value of half the existing depreciated buildings from Hillsborough Avenue to Sly Avenue. So, the idea of how transit-oriented development is going to spur that type of growth and, looking at that hand in hand seems to be something that we should be doing. Now, I realize we have a September deadline here, but, I guess the question is, what are we doing with this TOD study, and how are we going to catch that information up to this plan?
Okay, so at this point in time, staff has been working very closely with the Planning Commission as well as the City of Tampa. We are in the process of drafting and finalizing an RFP that will go out for services. We will bring you an update to the TOD committee this month. I believe the 18th is the date, and that RFP will go out very quickly. What I want to hopefully this will kind of ease your mind. The TOD study is intended to is informed by the station areas that will come out of kind of the first phase of the BRT study. We already know where the station areas are very likely to be for the streetcar. So the three phases of the TOD study are to look at identified station areas for the streetcar, and then the second phase is the BRT study on Florida, and then the third phase is station areas on the Fowler corridor. So when
I understand that
those areas should be, I'm sorry.
I hear what you're saying, but I think that what we don't want to fall into is a trap where we have the transportation engineering side making like what, policy decisions about where transit should go to best serve the population and to best enhance the urban core and serve the, immediately outlying areas. So the idea that one follows the other, that a TOD study kind of determines that from an engineering perspective, this would be the easiest place to put a transit station, and therefore now we'll study that for transit-oriented development could be perceived as being backwards. But I mean, they need to be parallel, I think, in process. But I know we've been talking about this TOD study for more than a year, so I'm happy to hear that it's about to get out on the street, and hopefully that can get caught up with this BRT study process, I think, in my opinion. Thanks.
Mr. Lemon?
Yeah, just one point of clarification. Excellent point. The streetcar work as well as the BRT work on Florida and Nebraska will be done in parallel with the TOD study. I did want to clarify that the list that was presented today was the list of projects that's going to be submitted to the Independent Oversight Committee. The TOD study was mostly funded through a federal grant, and the local match was provided with existing funds. So there's no need to submit that particular study to the Independent Oversight Committee. So I just wanted to kind of draw that connection there. From a technical perspective, they're going to be done in parallel, but one of these studies is going to be on the ILC while the TOD study is not, because it's not.
I fully understand, but
sales tax, yeah.
And we're going to move forward with something that's going to be presented to the IOC in September. We're not going to have this information. And I think the point I'm trying to make is, what's the lift to downtown Temple Terrace if we run BRT through there? And what's the lift to Sulphur Springs if we run BRT through there? Because to Ms. Shanahan's point, I'm the most fiscally conservative guy here, right? I mean, the deals I do, I invest my money. I got skin in the game. I get it, but the math needs to make sense. So and I think again, that what we don't want is a transportation plan solely decided on, well, this street has more existing right-of-way than that one, or this corner's open and publicly owned, so we think a transit center should go here. Maybe at the end of the day, that logic does win out, but without having the information in parallel of, again, two prime examples of places that would have a huge ad valorem tax lift and potentially fueled by transit. And I think that private development sees bus rapid transit just like fixed transit. If there's a bonded commitment nailing BRT to the ground, that is still a fixed commitment. It doesn't need to be a streetcar or light rail, but and so I think that as we as a board make decisions, and then inevitably the overarching county commission makes more important decisions, that having that information will be important to us. So and also in getting the community to understand what we're making decisions on. And so anyway, that's my, sorry that turned into a speech, I apologize. But thank you for the information, and it's a good presentation. So.
Okay, thank you, sir. Flamingo Affairs Projects Update.
Okay, hello. My name is Ilea Bruns. I'm a project manager within the PMO here at HART, and I'm the lead project manager for Flamingo Affairs. I know you guys haven't had an update in quite a while, so I'm going to provide that today. So what is Flamingo Affairs? Simply put, Flamingo Affairs is a regional account-based electronic fare collection system. For phase one, we're going to be introducing smart cards that users can tap while boarding our buses to pay their fare. We'll also be introducing a mobile application that riders can download and scan when boarding our buses. What was really important to us here was giving our riders a more convenient, more modern way to pay their fares when boarding our bus. It's super configurable, so it has the ability to support multiple different avenues of fare payment, kind of independent of media. If we would like to pursue it, it would also have the ability to support open payments, which would enable us to take things like Apple Pay, Android Pay, those really neat contactless credit cards that they have now that the banks are issuing. So it's a really neat system. Why did we start Flamingo Fares? Flamingo Fares was started as an effort to modernize our fare boxes and our fare collections. If you board one of our buses today, you'll notice that there's really only two forms of payment that are accepted. You can pay via cash, in which you have to have exact change, or you have to have one of those magnetic stripe cards that may or may not read when you go to swipe it on the bus. So really, we started this effort as I said before, a way to provide our customers a more convenient, more modern way to pay, a payment method, which a lot of people expect nowadays. We also wanted to improve regional mobility, again, focusing on the customer experience, giving that customer one seamless experience across the Tampa Bay region. We'll talk about that a little bit more. And also just to collect some better metrics. Today, when a patron boards our bus, the operator has to press one of 4 buttons when a person boards that bus to get ridership data. And when you have a manual process like that, user error can come into play. So with Flamingo system, you're actually accounting for what actually happens. So hopefully we'll get some better ridership metrics about that. So I know a lot of people in the state of Florida and other agencies already have electronic fare collection systems, but Flamingo is going to be state of the art. We will have the most advanced e-fare collection system in the state, and we will be up there with some of the national leaders. What actually makes it different and so special is the fact that it is account-based as opposed to a card-based system. In an account-based system, you'll notice that no information is ever stored on the physical media itself. And this might seem like kind of a small nuance, but it allows us to do a lot of really big things. For one thing, everything is stored in a centralized location, including all of the business rules, which is why we were able to support 5 different agencies, very different business rules and discounts and all that kind of fun stuff. But when you remove the physical media from the equation, it allows you to support and integrate with a lot of different things. Like I was saying earlier, open payments is something that if we would like to support it, we definitely could. In fact, some agencies will be doing so, mostly Pinellas and Hernando. We can also integrate with other things, different software. Right now we're evaluating an integration with Uber to kind of help with that last mile problem. There's various other softwares that you can integrate with things that don't even exist yet. It's really, really exciting. It's a really cool system. One of the big benefits of Flamingo is going to be something called fare capping or fare fares. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of that before. It basically allows users to earn a pass as they ride. So for some of our more disadvantaged customers, it enables them people who might not have the $65, which is the cost of one of our monthly passes up front, it allows them to basically pay as you go. So instead of having to pay that $65 right away, they can ride every day, and once they hit that $65 during a calendar month, they ride for free the rest of the month. We also have that for a day pass, but you really kind of see the benefits when you get to the monthly pass.
If you rely on transit, rely on Flamingo fares to save you money with fare capping. Once you've paid the equivalent of a day pass, every ride after is absolutely free on that day. The more you ride, the better the benefits, so everyone gets the best fare. And when your trips reach the cost of a monthly pass, you earn unlimited rides for the rest of that month. So keep tapping. While Flamingo fares capping saves you money.
That's fare capping in a nutshell. It's think it's gonna be really something great for the region and especially our customers who, like I said, can't necessarily afford that pass up front. Okay, so where's Flamingo installed? This is another huge thing with Flamingo. We encompass 5 different counties. We're gonna be the largest regional e-fare system that I could find in the nation. So that's exciting. Currently we are, obviously we're in Hillsborough County. Our partners over at Pinellas have joined with us as well. Pasco is on board. We have Fernando and we have Sarasota. So those are the 5 agencies that we are currently at, and we are evaluating having other agencies join as well. I have been contacted by Lynx over in Orlando. So when Brightline comes in, that might be something really interesting that tourists would be able to leverage when going between the different areas. So how does Flamingo work? Kind of as I was talking a little bit earlier, you can tap on to the bus or you can scan your mobile application when boarding. Users will also be able to go online to load their fares. They can leverage our mobile application to load their fares, and they can also go to any of our ticket counters at any of the agency stores to go ahead and load those as well if they would like to do a cash payment. In the future, we will have a third-party retail network in which users can both buy and load the cards for our unbanked customers who would like to do cash transactions. Like at an Amscot or a 7-Eleven, Walgreens, they have those kiosks. It would be kind of one of those situations. Project cost, I get a lot of questions on this. This just breaks down the funding. Essentially, you can see that we were primarily state funded, both with funds that have already been recognized and funds that have been promised. HART has paid about 5%, other agencies 32%, and federal money came in at about 14%. It was about $10 million to stand up the system, and operating costs per year for HART will roughly be $255,000. So flamingofares.com, like I was talking about earlier, this is the website where users can go check their balance, load their card, purchase products, manage other people's cards. So you can link more than one card to your account. So say you have children, you can add funds to their account remotely, which is kind of cool. We also have an example of what the cards are going to look like. And I have an example here too as well. You'll see that for the really neat thing with these is on the back for our reduced fare riders who today have to carry 2 forms of identification. With Flamingo Fares, we'll be actually verifying that they qualify for the discount program and then printing their picture on the back so that when they go to board and it tells our operator to check ID, they just flip the card over. So they no longer have to carry another form of identification, hopefully speeding up boarding and making their lives more convenient. Barcodes on there for loads and top-ups. Here's an example of our mobile application. As I was talking about before, there is a QR code. It shows you the balance, and again, you can manage other people's cards through this application as well. So opportunities, I feel that Flamingo is going to be awesome, but we really do have an opportunity to make it spectacular. Things that we're going to want to pay really close attention to are going to be customer education and marketing. This is going to be a complete departure from what we've been doing today. It's going to be very different, so it's going to be important that we focus on our disadvantaged communities, making sure that we don't leave anyone behind, because that's really important to me. Also, I think that we want to look at enabling open payments. Our sister agencies in Hernando and Pinellas have opted to do that. I think HART should go that way as well. It would be a change order, a one-time fee. So that will probably be coming for you guys soon. Also, I think we need to focus on the retail network, making sure that the locations are in areas that our patrons have access to. If they don't have access to, it's no good to them. So it'll be important to focus on those going forward. So project status, we just finished system integration testing, which made sure that the technical aspects of the system were in fact working. Right now we are working on deployment testing, which makes sure that the system operates correctly under extreme circumstances, heavy website loads, a piece of hardware failure. It just makes sure that everything recovers correctly. We will be entering soon into our revenue and beta testing, which will ensure that once real money is going through the system, that all of those monies are accounted for correctly. Once we're done with that, we're ready for launch, so that should be early 2020. just a breakout of the phases, as I was kind of saying earlier, in phase 1 will be early 2020. That will be the mobile application, the smart cards, the centralized back office, and the consumer website. When we get to phase 2, that would be summer 2020. That will be the third-party retail network. We'll be standing up an IVR system, like those automated phone systems that you call in so that you can like check your balance and do things of that nature. Also for the counties that have opted to enable open payments, that will be turned on at that time. And then we're also going to be standing up our school like employer website for our customers who order in bulk. Yeah.
Commissioner Shanahan, you recognize.
I just have a quick question. You said it was $255,000 a year. What's the current program cost? So is this a plus cost or you're saving money? What's the current program of fare collection cost on an annualized basis?
I would have to get those numbers from our revenue management, but I can certainly do that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I'd like to know that.
Ms. Williams, you recognize.
That was exactly going to be my question. What is the operating cost today in comparison to the $255,000? The other aspect, I like to thank you so much for this information. I think this is going to, allow users to, make it easy for our users. But I am concerned about those that do not use bank accounts or work on a cash-only mode. Is there an opportunity for them to continue to utilize cash when Flamingo Card is implemented? And how is that?
Yes, ma'am. So we are not getting rid of accepting cash on the current fare boxes. That will still continue. If they would like to utilize Flamingo, they will be able to load money via one of our ticket counters at any of the regions. And then once we have the third-party retail network, they will be able to also pay cash in those locations as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
Thank you. I think this will be great, and for ease of boarding and all those reasons, it's going to be much improved. I do have a concern, and I know that this system is expanding and taking on new capacities, and it kind of goes to your question, Director Williams. Also, the way that the brackets are set up now, you have to kind of purchase a full day, full week, full month, something like that. But there's lots of people, as we know, that use the bus intermittently, transit services intermittently. So they might use 3 this week, 2 the next week, 4 the next week, and so they wouldn't want to purchase in any of those categories. So I'm wondering about like a SunPass Works or some others, where you just deposit $30 and it gets taken as, it seems like it would be a much more feasible thing for many people in terms of how they ride transit and also what they can afford.
Yeah, so you're very correct. So stored value is one of the options. So you can just load money onto the card. You do not, we're trying to move away from the past product mentality. Fare capping kind of facilitates that in the thought process that when you put stored value onto the card, once you've paid the equivalent of a pass, like you've earned that pass, but you're not necessarily having to buy the pass up front. But yes, you can definitely just put stored value on the card and then move without, within the region.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I just thought about this redundancy. What if the system went down? Hopefully it won't. And do we have redundancy in place when those things happen?
We do.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, you recognize.
Well, I think this is very exciting, and it's really exciting that we'll be the largest system in, I can imagine a lot of multi-county users, including myself. Where are we with Manatee County being conspicuously absent from this list?
Excuse me. What's the?
Is Melinda's call?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so they're definitely an option of having. They were originally part of the project. They had decided to pursue a different avenue. They went with a flash pass, which is a little bit different technology, but they can definitely join back at any time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, hold on, Mr. Knight, you recognize.
Yeah, again, thank you.
Thank you.
If a card is lost or stolen, will it?
We have balance protection if you have registered your card. So all you have to do is call up with your account information and we can transfer it over to a new card.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. HART and Downtown Nurse Services.
right. Thank you, board. We're here to give you a quick rundown here on the HART and Downtowner service, an update after our previous discussion in last month in July. Just again, to give you a brief overview of the Downtowner. This was currently is a public-private partnership that's been in existence since October of 2016. This partnership exists between DOT, City of Tampa, many local businesses in the downtown area and the Downtown Partnership, as well as HART. Currently, the Downtowner provides really a very innovative on-demand service in the downtown area where people are able to hail rides on their mobile app to be able to get in and around the downtown area. That service has also been expanded into the Tampa Heights as of late. And to date, the program has carried nearly 500,000 passengers. It may have possibly eclipsed that number at this point in time. And again, here's a list of the hours of service. Runs well into the evenings here to provide some good service to businesses in the downtown area. I'll give you a background on the current Downtowner funding. It's been comprised of a number of different partners coming from both federal, state, the local level, in both the downtown and channel side CRAs. The Downtown Partnership has put in their own funding as well as private businesses putting in a good chunk of money in their budget, and Hillsborough County. While HART has not provided any specific monetary funding, we do, as you may know at this point, we do provide our Teslas to the program that came from the Hyperlink program. Currently, funding was secured through July 31st, so at this point in time, we're running a little bit past the available funding, and they are kind of running on pennies at this point in time. Give you a background on the current Downtowner contract. The partnership and HART have drafted a tentative agreement to provide extended funding through March 2020, which is one of the reasons we're here today, to bring forward to you an opportunity to approve that to approve that funding. Do want to ensure that we'll go a little bit more into this, understanding that this agreement is extended in conjunction with some FDOT funding that was approved at last month's board meeting. So to give you some highlights of the performance, that Ms. Kress has already highlighted some of these. Marion Transit Center ranks among the top 5 most used drop-off locations ever since its very existence. At one point in time, it was 1 and 2, and it's still up there in the top 5. A lot of use in and around the core area. Remote parking lots is a popular use for people to get in back and forth in between downtown. University of Tampa makes up about 12% of the total ridership. And at this point in time, we note about 23,000 plus unique riders. Anecdotally from some surveys and understanding from riders, a lot of those people are service industry workers getting to the jobs downtown, in the hotels and the restaurants and such. It's been definitely a great way that we see in helping to decrease the single occupancy vehicle use in downtown. In the bottom there, you can see the peak hours, weekdays, 8 a.m., not too surprising, and the weekdays and the commuter hours. In the weekends, we see great use in the evenings for people to be able to get to events and around the downtown. Some more ridership performance that's really critical to understanding how it rates in conjunction with compared to HART. Currently, it does about 450 passengers a day. The cost per passenger of the Downtowner at this point in time is about $5.50 per passenger. HART's average fixed route cost per passenger is $6.08 right now. When we did a similar service with Hyperlink, we were paying $10 a ride. So I think it's important to be able to help everyone understand that does a good job in providing a cost-effective, from a cost per passenger perspective, does well compared to what HART has provided in the past. About half the trips are shared, so we see about 1.5 people per trip in the vehicles. That continues to improve. The Downtowners done a great job in continuing to improve their algorithm and their hub locations to ensure that more people are riding with others. Again, you can see the top 5 drop-off locations, Publix being the top. Armature Works is up there. That has recently come up in the ranks there and continues to grow quickly. This is a great map here that really tells the story of it all. Downtown area, by far the vast majority of pickups and drop-offs throughout the day, throughout the week. People are using this service in the downtown core. That service in the Tampa Heights continues to grow. Out into there was a lot of thought here about how the college is involved. We do get some ridership out there, but again, right in the downtown core and the Channel side down and in the main area there is really doing very, very well. Currently, so from that standpoint, I want to give you a little bit of an idea of what it might look like for us to be able to continue the Downtowner through March in conjunction with our proposed contract extension. Currently, the Downtowner's monthly operating cost is $78,000 a month. That includes the HART Tesla leases that we pay about $7,000 a month. That lease is up March 17th of next year. And to maintain the Downtowner service through March 20th, we would be looking at $568,000 for 8 months of service. Currently, we have what you agreed to last month was accepting a DOT funding that would require a 50-50 match that would essentially split that $568,000 cost between FDOT and HART through in direct correlation to this through March 2020, and then any funding that we have left over from that could really be used to fund any newly proposed alternative that we can be able to bring back to you early in 2020. This aligns well with our Tesla leases that are up in March. It also aligns well with an opportunity for us to with our new COA that we're looking at having out and being able to have more data to really dive into what is the best option in downtown and really evaluate what is the best way to move forward. So the recommendations that we're asking for you all to consider is to look at funding the Downtowner through March 2020. We will absolutely look at evaluating all possible alternatives and bring back recommendations to you in early 2020. And we would also look at considerations for future service on the Downtowner's part to include creating more predictable hub-to-hub service areas that would create more shared rides and really have them, we could work with them as well, improve that need to complement our fixed route and streetcar services in the downtown areas as opposed to competing with it. We feel that would be very important. And again, continue to work with, to have them work towards decreasing that cost per passenger to make it more efficient. And then possibly evaluating a fare-to-fare for point-to-point trips that are not shared to really incentivize people using it for shared trips. So this is the action item before you today is to adopt the resolution to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a memorandum of understanding between HART and the Tampa Downtown Partnership to assist with operating the downtown on-demand transportation service through March 31st, 2020 in the amount not to exceed $568,000.
Okay, if it's okay with the board without any objection, I want to move over to the action item 10A, since this presentation is here, take up action item 10A at this point, which is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to take up 10A at this particular point in time. Commissioner Kemp, you recognize.
Thank you. And I had kind of put the brakes on this a little at the last meeting, and I'm fine with it moving through March 2020. Again, I'm concerned about
Commissioner
costs.
Kemp, we're trying to take it up first.
I'm sorry?
Just procedural. at this
Oh,
point.
procedural, sorry, okay.
Is there any objection to, we have a motion to take up 10A at this particular point in time. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, motion is adopted. Now we're on 10A. Commissioner Kemp, you
Move
recognize.
approval.
A motion to approve and a second. Commissioner Kemp,
And
recognize.
I'll go on with what, so I was concerned, and I'm fine with it going through March of 2020 with the Tesla, which is on top of it, the Tesla cost of $56,000 in terms of the cost. But I just want to, looking at future thoughts about it, because I see here create a more predictable hub-to-hub service that operates more like a circulator. Needs to complement fixed route, and I'll just emphasize again, the best and most complete and best service we can give, I believe, is a fixed route alternative to doing that. And I just inherently can't see why we should be subsidizing a microtransit service in lieu of our regular bus route. And I think that we've seen exactly the points on these maps about where a circulator would go, and we could provide it for a lot less money to many more people.
Mr. Hart, you recognize. Then I think after you, we have some, is Mr. Melendez on yet?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Just hold on a minute. Yeah, we can hear you. Just hold on a second. Mr. Hart, you recognize.
Okay.
So just a quick question, getting to this question of subsidizing this microtransit. So we're being asked for HART to fund an amount not to exceed $568,000. Is that the request?
It is for the total amount, so we're actually half of the 568.
Okay, so we're being asked for HART to fund up to half of $568,000.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So the,
That's not what this says.
it's not what it says.
That's not what this says. This says, authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute a memorandum of understanding between HART and the Tampa Downtown Partnership to assist with operating the downtown partnership and demand transportation services through March 31st, 2020, in the amount not to exceed, doesn't say half.
Correct. The project total is $568,000. Our portion, HART's portion is half of that $568,000.
So one more question, then the half that we're being asked to fund, is that inclusive of our payment of the Tesla leases or in addition to?
The Tesla leases are not included in the $568,000.
Okay.
Those are.
So it's half of 568 plus 7,000 a month for 8 months.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, Mr. Knight, you,
Yes, that, again, that grant that's out there, matching grant, where did that play part in this?
I'm sorry, I missed the
That
question.
matching grant that's
Yes.
out there that need to be matched, that's additional to this where,
So the total amount of the grant available was $760,000. But the condition of it is that we match it half. So in reality, it's $380,000 provided by DOT, $380,000 provided by HART. Based on the operational costs currently of the downtowner, we are looking at the cost through March would only be $568,000 total. Again, we would match those costs with DOT, and then any money that's left over, we could still, we would be able to look at putting towards whatever alternative we come up with. If the downtowner is something that you all decide is the way to continue, then it can continue to fund that. But it is, the funding is tied to a circulator service in the downtown area. Did I answer your question?
I'm sorry.
yeah,
yeah, and also another part. Now, a lot of those riders even though it's about 500 a day, they do lock in, I mean, they do catch bus service in other areas too, like, you know,
Yes, sir.
they do support us in.
We see a significant amount of drop-offs and pickups at Marion Transit Center.
Were you finished, Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Harden, you're next.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. So just in March, the Teslas get returned regardless. Okay, so any service going forward that continued to be the current downtowner program would, how many of those trips are provided by the Teslas?
As far as we understand, it's evenly distributed. People can't choose what vehicle they want, so
How many vehicles are there?
6 at the current.
And how many are Teslas?
4.
Okay, so got it. 2/3 of the vehicles are being returned in March.
My understanding is that the downtowner has the ability to, they're on a leasing program, so they have the ability to quickly put into place more vehicles when needed.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, you recognized.
Thank you. I'm still having a little trouble with the math. So 568,000 total gets us through March of 2020. And half of that is 284,000 from somebody matching FDOT. Plus, 284 plus our $50-something thousand worth of Teslas. 7 times 7 would be 49,000. If it's 8 months, of course, it'd be 56,000. So we're getting up to 340,000. But we're being asked to agree to, the proposal in front of us is to provide 380 to match FDOT's 380. So that'd be a lot, that would be more than take us through March.
My understanding is that at last month's meeting, you all have already agreed to receive that. Cindy can break it down.
So last month, I brought a grant agreement to you. It was the amount of $760,000. It was $380,000 for HART and $380,000 from FDOT.
Mm-hmm.
When we engage with FDOT on these agreements, it's for the entire project cost. So this item was revised from last month based on the actual operating costs that are currently being provided. Last month, we brought to you an agreement that may have used more of that funding based on a different level of service. This is based on the current level of service that we would continue, or downtown would continue through March of next year. So that cost is about $71,000 per month, which we will split with FDOT in the amount of $568,000.
So the leftover money we're going to do what with?
Right, so we would have the ability to reallocate that to a different service in the downtown area based on the agreement that we have with FDOT to provide some sort of a downtown solution.
And there was just one more question, because it's been for the last 3 years funded by many different partners coming together. We could conceivably partner with some other people again to meet our match of the against FDOT.
Yes, that's correct. FDOT just requires local funding to match their contribution. I kind of alluded to that last time. So we're certainly welcoming any other contribution that we could get to match that should you decide to carry on the service.
And how would we go about that? Would HART staff can possibly work with the Tampa partnership to reach out to the businesses that had been providing $60,000 a year, the private entities or the CRAs? Do we still have any chance of doing that?
We can try again. Staff has reached out to the partnership. They have, their message is that their funding has run dry. understanding it, that those partners were the ones contributing to the funding, so that we can, of course, we can go back and explore that again.
Of course, once we agree to the whole share, it's going to be hard to get anybody else to donate after that, but thank you.
I'm going to call on Mr. Knight, then Mr. Melendez, you're on the phone.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, after Mr. Knight, then I'm going to call on you, then I call on Mr. Smith. Mr. Knight, you recognize?
Sounds good.
Yeah, even with that 568,000, that we don't have to give it all, but it's there. But if we don't make the decision today, then it shuts down that. So something we can do to keep it going, and being when the Tesla stop in March or whatever, to make a decision on moving forward from there, but at least now to support the people who are using that in somehow, you know, and then we can look at probably other partnership or whatever, you know, to help offset that cost. But it seems like that's something that we need to continue on because it's very needed, and we don't want it to shut down.
Mr. Melendez, you recognize?
Thank you, sir, and thank you to my fellow board members for approving the earlier motion so I could participate by phone today. I appreciate it. I just want to make three quick points. I support staff's item as prepared, and if there's a motion made, I would support it. Three quick points. The data provided shows that the downtowner is a viable mobility option for commuters and other users. Number two, the partnership has found a vendor who not only performs, but also provides detailed data so the service can be appropriately evaluated. And I think that is an incredible asset to have. I know we've had experiences with vendors of varying, degrees, but they have a very solid vendor. And I just believe in supporting this through that March timeframe. Lastly, I think this arrangement is a great example of the type of successful mobility partnership that we as transit operators should be supporting, and as we rethink and explore operation solutions. I think staff also brought up the background on the Teslas. In general, I think it's a prudent move to support this, and I will vote in the affirmative. Thank you.
Mr. Smith, thank you, Mr. Smith. I'm going to call on you, but let me ask a question of you, Mr. Smith. To me, I might be wrong, the action item to me is worded wrong. Because it appears that HART's going to give the whole entire $568 million. Am I correct? Am I reading it wrong?
Let me just clarify. HART would be responsible for paying the bill. So we would be paying $568,000, and then we would be reimbursed half of that by FDOT.
So why does the resolution not say that? Because it appears that reading the resolution, we're going to pay the entire $568 million.
We can reword it differently, but our agreement with Tampa Downtown Partnership would be to pay what they submitted as in the amount of $568,000 over the course of 8 months. So we are obligated to pay that. We normally don't say what our exact obligation is in an agreement depending on the funding. We have other agreements that are funded by various funding sources as well. This one in particular happens to be funded in part by FDOT.
Okay. Mr. Smith?
Yes. On behalf of Mr. Mechanic, he asked that I read the following into the record. While I cannot attend today's board meeting, I'd like to encourage the board to support item 10A to provide funding in conjunction with FDOT to operate the downtowner service through March 31, 2020. Since we continued this item from last month, I've learned the service is considered hub to hub, which is more akin to a fixed route service than an Uber-like service. Moreover, Marion Transit Center is one of the top 5 most used pickup and drop-off locations, which means the downtowner is serving HART passengers for their first mile, last mile requirements. Over 14,000 passengers use this service on an average monthly basis, and I would urge the board to vote to continue this service until March 31, 2020, which will allow the RFP process to proceed so that HART can evaluate the best means by which the service may continue.
Okay, what's your pleasure? Well, we have a motion.
We have a vote on
That's right. We had a motion.
We already
A motion on the floor. I think you made the motion, Ms. Martin seconded, something like that. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise.
Aye.
Nay.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. All those in favor of the motion, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
Okay. We have one nay, and that's Mr. Hart. Okay, we revert back to the consent agenda. We have one item.
Move approval.
There's a motion to approve this consent agenda. Is second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harden to approve the consent agenda. Seeing no further discussion. All those in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted. Refer back to action items. B, Resolution R 2019-0837.
Sylvia Berry, Deputy Attorney for HART, asking the board to authorize a resolution to modify the contract for general counsel services to increase the not to exceed amount from $630,000 to $750,000. This amount and board approval will allow the continuing litigation services for the general counsel to continue those services as well as the appellate services that are needed for the appeals that have been filed in this particular litigation.
Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Shanahan, second by Ms. Williams to approve the resolution. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, let them know by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, likewise. Motion is adopted. Now moving to public comment on off the agenda items. Curtis Brown? You have 3 minutes, sir. Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. You skipped agenda item 9.
No, we did not.
That was the public's vote.
Pardon me? We approved
Consent agenda.
We approved the consent agenda.
Pardon?
We approved the consent agenda.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyway, I had a question. First of all, your on-time performance statistics, are they done from the One Bus Away app?
Rosie, if you don't mind coming to the podium, just very briefly explain the on-time performance calculation.
Our performance, our performance for on-time performance specifically related to fixed route is measured through our Trapeze software, which is and our ITS software on board our vehicles that's tracking where the vehicles are and as they're moving throughout the lines in the system. The One Bus Away app is actually feeding from that same system.
The other point I wanted to make, you had posters up for see something, say something, for the safety of your drivers. But you have no way for your riders to contact you if you have an urgent issue. You have your customer service center, which drops calls after 30 minutes of holding. You do not, if you notice in your statistics, you don't have information for customer service. You have details for other departments. You should be seeing what your average speed of answer is, what your call volume is, and I think what I've determined what happens is when you don't have supervisors in the call center, the operators all sign out or go unavailable and just let the calls. You can sit there and be caller 7 for 30 minutes and never advance to caller 6. This is not a one-time thing. You should have these statistics and be managing them by them, and that's clearly not what's happening for your customer service. The other way you have for the customer to contact you, and I would invite every one of the board members to call in as a rider without revealing they're a board member. See how you're treated, see if you feel it's acceptable. The other thing I would invite you to do is the second option is your see-click fixed option. Go ahead and try and submit something, a suggestion that's not related to a specific address. Try it first on your phone. I doubt you'll be able to. You're going to have to go to a laptop. You're supposed to be able to also go in and check the status of what you've submitted. I challenge you to do that also. Your customer service center doesn't know how to do that. It goes into a black hole and is not responded to. So I just want to encourage you to try that. And the reason I was asking about the One Bus Away, I can give you screen prints of how bad that system is, but nobody takes any suggestions to do anything about it. It's very, very unreliable, and somebody must know that within HART, but when a caller can't even get through and let you know that, much less, like I said, there's things that happen on your buses. There's excellent drivers. You can't give a commendation. You have incredible drivers doing incredible things, but you also have safety issues, and people cannot get through to you to let you know that. Thank you.
So let me recognize.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind, I'll have Ruthie Reyes-Burkhardt connect with you to iron out some of these details as well, and then provide a written correspondence response to you.
All right, thank you.
Right.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to address the board? Okay, we're moving to old business. Under old business, we have A, review of the board membership travel to 2019 After Transit Board Seminar. I think this was brought up by Commissioner Overman. She asked that we move it to next meeting, instead of this meeting. Is there any other old business? Is there any new business? Mr. Knight, you recognize.
Yes, if you may, with the negotiation company, I mean the union and the company, is anything going on there, or what's going on with progress?
Union negotiations?
Yes, for our union and the contract.
Yeah, I can have staff prepare an update for the September board meeting, but they did meet twice throughout the month of July to go over some of the economic and the other article modifications, but we can provide a more comprehensive summary because they are planning to meet at least once in the month of August. So.
Okay.
I would just caution, we are the board that hears any impasse. As such, we cannot be prejudiced by information that precedes such a proceeding, so we need to be careful there.
Yeah, well, the main thing was trying to see when it's going to get to us. I don't need to know all the details, but make sure that because when we did vote on the other two legs, that was one of the things it said that I'd like to make sure that we do that last part and then everything can go good.
Any other new business? Seeing none, we adjourn.
Yeah.